Hello, everyone who's joining us for episode 3 of A Measure of Marketing, Brand Strategy and Brand Identity.
Exciting. We always choose these big topics, though.
Yeah, I know. I think we need to work on that a little bit for episode 4.
So, the reason why we've chose this topic, we work with graphic designers and other marketing people, I guess, and certain people within marketing are asked different questions, and there's different starting points, I think, for us all as well. I've got some close friends who are graphic designers, and they are often asked, and brand strategists as well, who are often asked that for logos, and a business is starting up or they have already started, they get straight into colorways and they get straight into website design, and the logo element is always the first bit that people think about. And I guess for you and I was just talking about what the most ideal starting point is. If you had like a complete blank canvas and someone was coming to you saying that they wanted to start a business, where would we ideally get them to start? And I think we both agree, just in terms of what we both do, being very similar, it would be brand strategy. So to just talk that through and how that can then lead really succinctly and in alignment with the identity and the visual side of a brand. We just wanted to go through those points, didn't we? So it's super clear. And I guess, again, thinking about our episode 4, which I'll talk about at the end, thanks to a few comments that we've had that are really helpful. It's almost a starting point for quite a lot of different steps, I think, in marketing as well, is that strategy and that real deep dive into purpose and why you're doing what you're doing.
I totally agree. And I think once you've got that strategy, it gives you that foundation and that framework for everything that you do. And I appreciate, and I know of some business owners that have never wanted to do it, have even said to me, I don't want a strategy. I've just said, I don't want reams of paper. I don't want a big thing, to work through. And it's like, you're missing the purpose of it. You could have a marketing strategy that's a page long if you wanted to. But yeah, to me, it's that foundation for absolutely everything. It's the reason you come back to it. It helps you make decisions. It's the reason you come back to it, to go, yes, we can do that because it aligns with this and that. And I think a lot of people jump ahead, as you say, and think about the logo and think about the visuals and think about the tactical stuff. And actually that strategy is so important to guide you moving forward from a year to 2, to 5 years as a small business. It can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I remember when I started my business, and I probably did the same, to be honest. So didn't practice what I preach. I instantly chose my colors, but from the depth of me, knew what I really wanted to portray, me and my brand. And I don't know if it's because I have just that subconscious on knowledge of brand and marketing, having worked in it for so long. I didn't write everything down. It was all in my head. So I had a strategy, but it was in my head. And it wasn't until probably 5 months in, I actually was no, you've got to follow your own client process that you've just created for yourself. And I sat down for 3 days and followed it all through. And as soon as I'd done that, I was okay, now we go. I knew exactly what I was doing every day. Everything else fell into place. It just made it really laser focused for me.
I did mine way later than I should have done, and for many years I didn't have a logo because I kind of didn't want to put myself out there as an entity. It was all a bit strange, really. I didn't have much time to think about it because I was going with work. But 2, I didn't actually allow myself that time to understand my why. I think I got into being self-employed and not really knowing what it was about. So when I did actually work with a brand consultant to go through the process, it was a journey, and it was enlightening, and it was it's quite emotional actually when I think back to it. And it wasn't all about colours. It was about my why and my purpose and how I help people. And
Yeah.
I hadn't taken that time to do my own marketing strategy, and I hadn't taken the time to do my own brand consultation, which Ali Marsh of Lark Digital did so well and helped me to give me the identity that I have now, which I'd have never have achieved on my own. But yeah, I'm same as you. I was one of those business owners that just jumped the gun, didn't start where I should have started, and didn't practice what I preach.
I get that though. Like, I get why people do start it, particularly if you're in a corporate role and you're not enjoying it. Everyone's got bills to pay. We all know that. Like, there's almost like you've got to get started, and if you've not got funds, like really sitting down with a professional, it can be expensive sometimes. Like, I like to think that I've costed out my brand strategy sessions there. It's a shorter version, and you can go into loads of depth, can't you, and get a brand strategist to do it in thousands of pounds, which is still great. It's their expert view on it. It depends how deep you want to go into it, but I think you can do it relatively quickly and cheaply, but it definitely makes a difference to start there.
I think it's different if you have a business with a team and if you're a business of one. I think the business of one, it is very much a journey. And when I've worked with other consultants and business owners who it's just them, and they may work with a team of associates, but it's just them. This journey for them is kind of understanding more about why they want to do what they want to do and their purpose behind it all. And that strategy piece, I try and put out, we try and work on over the course of a couple of months, which actually seems like a long time to pull a strategy together, but actually it takes probably between like 2 and 4 days worth of work. But I think there's a lot of reflection, and there's a lot of thinking, and there's a lot of understanding that has to go on before you can actually nail the business side and your objectives and your aims and all of that. So I think when you're a business with a team, I think it's a different process. It's less emotional and much more more strategic and more business orientated. At least that's what I've found, having done both over the years.
I've done a couple of just before, well, one before Christmas and one in the new year, strategy sessions with 2 very different types of clients. They were, one was a business coach, had been doing some coaching on the side while she was in a corporate role, but hadn't got the full business going yet, was in like the middle of building a website. And then the other one had been running for like 10 years and almost needed to, it wasn't so much a brand strategy session, it was more of a marketing strategy session, but we still really went back to her vision, mission, purpose. And they ran very differently. Over this side, it was probably over the course of a month, lots of notes, like lots of thinking. Whereas this side, it was more of a checking back in. Is that still true?
Yeah.
Like, where is your business now to where it was then? And we nailed that one within the space of like a full day session, and it was ticked off, and she moved on with the like few new strategic objectives, KPIs, etc., that were put into place. So it can feel very different for different people. I guess for me as well, when I first started my business, I got really lost in what the term strategy means. I was like, what strategy? So maybe we just go over that. Like, what do we mean? We keep talking a little bit about why and vision, purpose, etc. But what does a brand strategy session look like? Like what would we ask of our clients or get them to think about? What does a session typically look like?
Okay. I think I tend to do most of mine, let's say I'm silly, but I do some of it via email and I do some of it face to face. And the email stuff is typically questions that I think the person at the other end needs time to read and understand and reflect on. And it's not necessarily something that you can achieve within an hour session. I think you can plant the seed and you can kind of think about it and talk it through, but actually to go away and just let it sit for a bit and go for a walk or make a cup of tea or just be with it in your mind gives you the answers to the questions. So I will ask questions like, okay, what do you want to change? What's the bigger picture here? What are you striving for? To try and understand their mission. What part of that bigger change do you want to influence, or do you want to be a part of? So thinking of their vision and then their purpose. So I'd say quite, upfront, why do you exist? What would happen if you didn't provide the service that you do? So what's your purpose?
Yeah.
And we sort of go through all of that, and then thinking of customer facing propositions, which are a little bit different to what you would think internally. And then this, the idea of the unique selling point. So I always ask, what makes you special? And they go, well, they sort of like, how dare you ask such a question? It's like, well, no, what does make you special in comparison to mate down the road doing it, or somebody else in a different region, or whatever else. So they're my sort of starting points, and then we focus on business aims and objectives, and really focusing on target audience. So primary market, secondary market, and then that target audience of who we're talking to, which can be slightly different. And once I've sort of unlocked that, and that can take a bit of time, it then allows me to mold everything else around it. But without understanding what they want to achieve and why they're doing it and who they want to help, everything else is like, oh, what's the point? You can't do what we do until you've unlocked that. And actually, for some people, that takes time, that reflection of truly understanding how their offering helps their target audience's challenges, how it helps them solve them. So yeah, that's why I think it sometimes can take more than a crash course in strategy building. It takes a bit of time.
Definitely.
You're a bit different, aren't you? You do yours more.
I've kind of got I've done mine in more of a workshop. So it's called Connecting Your Brand Vision, Mission and Values, and Creating Your Brand Identity. So mine starts off with, like a brand strategy definition. I might read it out actually.
Yeah, go on.
Brand strategy is the definition of a brand's approach to who they target, how they differentiate, and how they influence perceptions and decisions. So branding is about making your business more appealing to your ideal customers, which is what you've just said. Your brand is a perception and owned by your audience. We are trying to influence and form the perception through positioning, messaging, visual identity, personality. Essentially, it's about being consistent and relatable. So yeah, my session runs through the same sort of things. So brand purpose, so beyond the cash flow, what inspired your business's creation. I talk about your brand purpose as your driving strategy. I think I have something in here around so an example from, I don't know if you've heard the brand Patagonia. So they're an outdoor clothing brand, and when I'm talking about brand purpose and mission, I just use an example of their mission is to build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm. They use business to inspire and implement solutions to support environmental crisis. So that's just a good example, I think, of having there's a purpose behind what they're doing, and it's the outdoor clothing piece, but still their mission is even a bigger step above that. And that actually when a brand has a really strong purpose, there's more, often you see there's more commitment from customers, because
Yeah.
that purpose is like embedded within them too. They feel very strongly about it. That trust is built a lot stronger and a lot deeper. We talk about brand values as well. So these being quite actionable points. And then we go into brand positioning. So I find if you can't talk about positioning if you haven't done all of that bit.
Mm-hmm.
So then we talk about competitors, what's important to your audience, and then start to really define primary and secondary audiences like you. And then start to talk about personality. So I find you can't talk about personality until you've spoken about your audience as well. So what would you find attractive and what would they find relatable?
Yeah.
And then brand tone of voice. So now we're getting into more of the external and the visual element to it. Like we're going to talk. And then we go more into like, have you got a preferred color palette and all of the identity, and then the touch points as well. So I guess mine strategy session is built so obviously collecting everything together for a business owner to tap into their why, and then my output of that is if they were to have that as like a deck, they could then supply it to a website developer or a graphic designer, or they could submit it with a business plan or put it into their business plan, or a copywriter, etc.
I always think that's so important. Go on, sorry to tell you.
Yeah, I was just saying it's like a little Bible for them that then they can pass about, and they don't have to keep going over it. They can just deliver it, and or that someone else will hopefully be able to just pick up straight away what they're trying to get at, to keep going through the next stages.
Yeah, because I think even a graphic designer or a copywriter who specializes in that particular output still wants to know the why behind it and the background and the strategy side. And I think businesses tend to forget this, that even if they're asking a graphic designer to produce some headers for an email campaign, well, first of all, have you got any branding guidelines? How does that fit into your overall strategy? And what's your campaign plan? Why am I creating this email? So there's all those different layers that I think that the brand owners forget about. And same with a copywriter. Whenever I brief in a copywriter that I work with, if I can give them a marketing strategy, I do. And if not, they've got a campaign plan, which kind of goes back to the strategy, but that campaign plan briefs them as to the why behind it. And I think it's totally forgotten about. I remember that business owner who said to me, I don't want a strategy. Well, you don't want a why then. You don't want a purpose, because it literally is going to help not just me, it's going to help your whole team to understand what you're doing and why. And the team that I work with, from graphic designers to copywriters to web developers. So yeah, I think it has to be a first step. I can't see how else you would launch a business without one.
Exactly. And actually all of the points that come up me, so yeah, a little insight into episode 4 was we were talking about something to do with content, either content creation, content strategy. For me, I've got like my brand strategy, and then I've got my marketing plan of how I want to project my brand and actionable points. My content strategy comes just underneath that then. So if I have a day where I'm like, I literally don't know what to post on LinkedIn today, I'm like, okay, go back to your brand strategy. Like, why are you doing this? Like, and I know why I'm doing it. So all I have to do is just write something to help that person, and with the purpose behind it. Like it makes it a whole lot easier. Otherwise you'll scattergun, and then you become very confusing and inconsistent, and people won't understand what you actually do. I feel like if someone has to say, sorry, what do you do again? You've forgotten to do this whole brand strategy piece.
Yeah, you failed really at the beginning.
Can't remember it yourself, so they're not going to remember it either.
Yeah, I agree.
We also spoke about, you mentioned campaign there. So I think some of the words that can be bandied around are like how to build brand awareness, and then you hear marketing plan or campaign plan, and I think if you're not from a marketing background, those few things can be very confusing.
Yep.
Yeah, how would you define those three things, and how do you work with your clients across them three things?
So once I've established a strategy, most clients, I recommend a roadmap of activity. So looking at the next sort of 12, maybe 18 months, and I don't go much further than that because it's a small business, you have to be quite agile really with how you're working. But just looking at a roadmap of activity, external activity, so campaigns, which I'll come on to the word of campaigns, and then also internal stuff. So what have you got to do to prep yourself for that kind of activity? So then you'd come up with a campaign plan for each campaign. So you've got this roadmap, which kind of gives you direction internally and externally, but then you'd have a plan for each part of that. So a campaign to me is a kind of 2-3 months period of marketing activity for a sole purpose, be it to launch a product, market a particular product, raise awareness of something, but it's very targeted. There's a real reason why you're doing this. And that's what it's called, a campaign of activity. So you'll have different types that go into that with the sole purpose of one thing. So that's the roadmap, has those different campaigns laid out. And then the plan of attack for each campaign is kind of fitted in underneath as a separate kind of bit of direction. And most clients that I work with have campaign-based activity. So we work 2 to 3 months at a time and go along. For some, it's just a rolling monthly bit of activity to keep going. So you'd have a regular newsletter, regular social posts, regular content, be it blog posts, you know, some PR thrown in. Yeah. But it's not as targeted as having these 2 to 3 kind of month campaigns because they're not needed. So yeah, the word campaign is a catch-all really, just for some very targeted or dedicated, that's probably a better word, dedicated marketing activity for the same audience that's defined in your strategy, or it could be a different type of audience if you've got multiple audiences. But yeah, the campaign plan can be enough if you've done your strategy well enough to kind of dictate, okay, this is who it's for and this is why we're doing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think my example is, if I think about my own, so I started my business last May, and I feel like, although I had services and you could go onto my website and there was different options on there, I didn't really specifically talk about my services. I talked about being a brand and marketing consultant, and I talked about topics to explain what certain skills and experiences that I have through like my experience examples or client examples, so people knew at a top level what experience I had and like my opinions on certain topics. It wasn't until probably Christmas time where I went into campaign work, where I've got a marketing mentoring membership, and then I talk specifically about that every week, or more so on Instagram. And that for me it's a super specific service, and if they've seen my brand activity that's always flowing, they'll recognize my experiences and my skills, and then they'll have trust that I can deliver a mentoring program based around self-development and marketing. So yeah, that's another example of campaign versus brand awareness. But I think you have to have that brand awareness stuff always totting through, that is laddering back to your purpose, your mission, vision, where you want your overall business to go. And then this campaign work is like supplementary but has its own KPIs or business growth behind.
It filters down, and you wouldn't have decided upon that campaign-based activity had it not been for your marketing / brand strategy, defining how you're going to help these people. And that's a marketing objective, is to create this mentoring membership to be able to support your target audience. And I think this is where some small business owners try and jump the gun, and they get really excited about campaign activity or launching something or a particular service or setting up a Instagram page, when actually they haven't done that top level work that's, paramount really to be able to define everything that you do. And I think one of my, or a role that I play in my consultancy, is to kind of keep that level of excitement there, because you really want to bottle it. It's brilliant, but you've just got to rein it in just for a couple of months to be able to get yourself sorted and to kind of get your house in order before you can run with it. But that's actually a really hard thing to do with clients, is to manage their excitement and their expectations, because they want to get going, but you have to kind of just pull it back just a minute, just let us get our ducks in a row.
You've got to build trust at the end of the day, haven't you? Like, before I start talking about me being a mentor, they'll be like, so, like, who are you? Like, what do you do? Like, give us all of the details of what you know. Like, let me have trust in you first, and then over time, then yes, I might let you be my mentor. And it's the same for big brands like Boots that I used to work for. They built their trust over time through a family-owned business, and then they started to bring in different services. They were led by healthcare, and then they started to do beauty, but that's because they built the trust from the healthcare line, and then started to bring in different services for a different target audience, and it was very specific, and campaign work happened, I guess, from there. I think
Pardon?
you might have cleared that up. Seems clearer in my head anyway.
I think we've covered brand strategy, brand identity. I think we've touched on, and I suppose you and I, we're not graphic designers, we're not brand consultants, and we don't necessarily claim to be, and that's why we work with those specialists that can do that. But I think that it was important for us to define the difference between the two, but also to then recognize, which we've done through that campaign activity or month-to-month activity, is everything you do raises brand awareness. So brand strategy, brand identity, and the brand awareness comes from everything that you do. It would probably be really interesting later down the line to have an episode with some brand consultants or with some graphic designers, actually, to get their views, because whenever I have worked with them at this level, at this sort of stage, they have asked such similar questions to what I do. I go, well, let's not repeat the exercise and it'd be a bad use of the client's money. You do your thing and then let's just work it together. But they will have a different spin on this, I'm sure. And I know graphic designers who watch this will chip in and give their views. So,
and yeah, but I have worked with some graphic designers since I've started my business, and it's kind of helped me realize how I worked with design teams when I was in corporate, and how it was a little bit backwards back then. Whereas now graphic designers will say, I need you first, actually. Like, I need you to do that work and deliver it to me, because it will make my life easier. So I'm happy to wait. I'll introduce you to the client. You do that. Give me that. I can do my bit. And then if they want a marketing strategy afterwards, I'll pass them back to you. And actually that works really well. Like, it does, it's great when you're able to do that and help three businesses and all work together. It is good.
Yeah. I suppose the one thing that we've not touched on, and we always said that these episodes would be an honest conversation about whatever topic we choose. I haven't thrown this into the plan, you haven't, of what we were going to talk about. But when we started talking about our brand identity for a measure of marketing, I mean, that's a whole other story that we can share of how we went about deciding on our brand identity, what it stood for, why we were doing this as well, and how we approach that, because we didn't work with graphic designers or brand consultants. So
yeah,
maybe that's another episode. That would be a quick 10-minute one, maybe, to build on this one, 3.5 or something.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess episode 4 will be something along the lines of content strategy. Yeah, it feels like a nice like tag on to what we've just spoken about. Again, still understanding your target audience, and yeah, there's quite a bit of like test and learn, or using your audience and the engagement and really paying attention to the reactions that you're getting to feed it back into your content, again, rather than just going off a scattergun approach and what you want. Yeah, I love that. I love content marketing.
Yeah, maybe we can factor in for small businesses. What tends to help is repurposing the content as well to aid their content strategy, to save time, money, and resource, and to think about how you could integrate your content with other marketing strategies like social media or email marketing. So that might be quite nice to touch on as well to help them.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thanks.
And then just give you a thumbs up. See you next time.
Thumbs up, Kel.
That.
No, that's a good one. That was a good one.
See you later.
See you soon. Bye.